Welcome to the Eye on Mental Health seminar. And I just want to thank our sponsors. Our sponsors are what make this event possible. They are our sponsors from the 2023 event who helped to make sure that we could show up for a hybrid event. Thank you to Castle Bioscience. Also our other high-level sponsors, Immunocore, IDEA, and Aura, as well as Trisalis Life Sciences and Delcath. Make sure to subscribe on the podcast in whatever platform you are listening to. You're going to search the I Believe podcast to locate us, and you will be able to subscribe. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribing itself, it actually helps a lot. So even if you don't plan to watch every single release we send out the minute you see it, please subscribe because it does help make sure that we can get content out to those who need it. This is just a special note to join the registry. Please join the registry. The registry is going to help with improving research and improving outcomes of patients. You're providing your medical history, and we would love to have you join. You can go to insight.iamrare.org, and that will get you into the registry. Eve, thank you so much for your patience. Thank you for being here. For those of you who did not hear my initial introduction of Eve, she is also a patient, and everyone in this seminar who is going to be presenting this year for Eye on Mental Health is a patient, as well as a medically trained or clinically trained therapist, psychologist. They are wonderful people, and we are so grateful for their willingness to be here, as well as share their experiences as patients. So Eve, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy today that you have organized this, because I think mental health is one of the biggest places that we need in dealing with an ocular melanoma or a metastatic uveal melanoma diagnosis. For me, having metastasized last fall, it is absolutely a psychological game, because anybody looking at me would never know that I have stage 4 cancer. When people see me, they're like, wow, you look so good, because I think they expect that I'm going to not have hair and have more yellowed skin and all of that. In facing this kind of cancer, which is so aggressive and so rare, and we know so little about it, why some of us mets in the lung and not the liver, why some of us mets 6 months after receiving the diagnosis versus 15 years after receiving the diagnosis, why some of us have survived Mets for 19 years and some of us for 6 months. We don't know most of the answers to these questions. So for me, as someone who has been dedicated to helping other people heal in their life, when I received this diagnosis, I did what I know how to do, which is I gathered my people and I started researching, and I started looking for stories of other people who had survived things they shouldn't have survived. And I happened upon Anita Moorjani's book, Dying to Be Me. So I was diagnosed in 2013. I was enucleated in 2017, and I metzed in 2022. I've been in a clinical trial at Columbia, the IDEA trial, who's one of our sponsors, yay, and recently was kicked out of the trial because of progression. And when I was first diagnosed in 2013, of course, I researched it all. My parents were both research scientists, so I did all my research and tried to figure stuff out. And I went to a conference in Philadelphia that year in 2013. I started making changes to make my body as healthy as it could be, to prevent Mets if I had any control over that. And I made lots of different changes over the 9.5 years that I had not yet metzed. But during that time, I would tap in and tap out of the Facebook support group pages. When my tolerance for seeing, oh, this person died and that person died, or that person metzed, or when my tolerance would wane, I would not look at the Facebook groups. And when I needed to connect and get information or talk with people, I would get on the Facebook groups and ask questions or vent or say how I'm feeling. And people were always supportive, and it made a huge difference. But when I met a year ago, it became really clear that it's a psychological game. It's a game of surfing hope and fear. I took everything that I knew from my work as a therapist and the way that I've lived my life in general, which is pretty out loud. I started to do lots of things to help myself make meaning of, why did I get this cancer? When we can make meaning of it, we remove ourselves, we take ourselves out of the role of victim. Oh, this cancer happened to me. Oh, this is awful. Oh, my life is over. And when we make meaning, and we decide what our story is, why this cancer, why this particular cancer, why this time of our life, that allows us to have a sense of agency over it. So we're not a victim to it. It's just another part of our whole life story. And for me, I had memes that I liked that resonated for me at the time, and I put them on screensavers on my phone. And interestingly enough, at this very moment, oops, it went away. But it's a screensaver that says, it's time to write a new story. And so for me, when I met, it reminded me of the 1980s when I was a young theater student, gay activist in New York City. And it was during the AIDS crisis, and people were dying left and right. And it was too much. It was overwhelming, especially to the gay and lesbian community, to have so many people dying left and right. And we lost so many people at that time that when I got involved with OM, I realized, oh my gosh, it's really similar, because people are dying like 1 to 2 people a week on the Facebook groups whenever I checked in. I remember there was a therapist in New Hampshire by the name of Connie Robillard, who was a client, an OMer, and she and I connected because she was a therapist. And 2 weeks after we connected, she died. And I was like, oh my God, that was way too fast. I was very frightened, and I carried this fear. Once you start to meds, you're going to go quick. Of course, that my awareness of that has changed considerably now that I'm still alive a year later. And now that I've met other people who have survived meds for many, many years. And I had to change my story from, oh my God, I'm going to die like really soon, to, no, I'm going to surf. I'm going to surf like Clay Butler, who made the wonderful video about, what happens psychologically when you metastasize. But I've got to learn how to surf moments of hope and moments of fear. And I've got to sort of embody this like mellow surfer dude, which is not my personality, this mellow surfer dude self that is not too phased by any bad news, but keeps it in the larger perspective of, okay, one step at a time. And it's very hard to do when you're facing a deadly cancer. It's extremely hard to do. And yet, I could either do that, or I could sink into depression or anxiety or dysfunction and be frozen in it. What I've learned over time is that one has to feel all the feelings, feel the bad ones, the hopeless ones, the ugly ones, the difficult ones, the angry ones, the self-blaming ones, and also feel all the joy and the love and the gratitude and the generosity of how people show up in our lives. So surfing all of these feelings and surfing the good news and the bad news with whatever treatments you're pursuing, the meaning for me became, after years of service to others, the meaning became, I got to heal myself. I got to focus on me. I got to figure out what message I'm not getting that I got to get. I got to figure out what I want to do before I die. I got to prioritize myself. And it became this whole study in spirit has allowed me to stay here to date. So what is my purpose? Down, I felt I had a much larger purpose than what I had already accomplished in my life, which was, it's not chopped liver, it's pretty decent. And it became really clear to me that for me, it was about writing a new story. It was about taking all the healing skills that I have so heartfully given in service to so many people in my life, and turn those skills towards myself. What I want to say is that nobody can tell you what your cancer story is. Nobody can tell you the meaning of your cancer or why you got it. It is 100% valid to have the meaning be, I was unlucky, I got this really bad cancer and it sucks, and I'm just going to live my life. If that's the meaning you make of it, and it resonates for you and it works for you, go for it. If the meaning is, oh my gosh, I'm figuring out my self-worth for the first time in my life, this is amazing, go for it. If the meaning is, oh, I've helped everybody else my whole life and now I'm going to help myself, go for it. That the meaning that you make of it is yours and yours alone and only yours to decide. And the meaning that you make of it is meant to help you cope. It's to help you tolerate the ups and downs. You know, you can get as deep and as woo-woo as you want about it. You know, some people are like, I must have been a really bad person in a past life to have this cancer in this life. Whatever works for you. The importance is that whatever frame you have, whatever way you've written this story about why this cancer, why now, and what you're going to do with the remainder of your life, that is uniquely yours to figure out. No, and don't let anybody tell you, oh, you know, God gave you this cancer because of blah, 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 blah. No, it's for you to decide in the quiet of your own heart, in the quiet of your own belly, in the quiet of your own prayer, for you to decide. Cancer is the great distiller, right? It allows me to be acutely aware of my mortality. It allows me to be aware. I don't know how much time I have left on the planet, but I am going to use my time in a valuable way that lifts me up. And when you don't have a cancer like ocular melanoma, you're also, you don't know when you're going to die, but the difference is that being an OMI allows you to be acutely aware of it. And ultimately for me, it was a gift. So when I was going back and forth to New York, I was listening to lots of audiobooks and memoirs. And I get really lifted up hearing other people's story and how they make sense of their lives. And I listened to Anita's book, Dying to Be Me. And it's a book all about how out of nowhere she was in stage 4 end of life cancer in India. And she was in the hospital and the doctors were giving her the look of like, I'm so sorry, you're about to die. And she had this experience where she saw her father and met with soul friends. It was an out of body experience. And she got a really clear moment where she was given a choice to decide if she was going to die or if she was going to stay in her body and live her purpose. She did a lovely job writing this book. And in fact, part of why she didn't die is because she had to write this book because the planet needed this book. The book was all about how her near-death experience of stage 4 cancer and how she turned the car around and made meaning of her cancer. And the meaning was the importance of living the life that lifts you higher, living a life that has integrity according to your own sense of care for the self and care for those things and people that you value. So for me, I got really clear. So cancer is the great distiller. If we can see our experience around cancer as a healing journey, not a destination like I'm gonna die or I got to do everything on my bucket list before I die, but as a journey, like, oh, and now I'm feeling this, and oh, and now I'm feeling that. Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm feeling this. If we can see it as a journey, which really that's all life is. Life is a journey. It's about having feelings and thoughts and behaviors and people and connections and all these wonderful things. And that's no different once you're diagnosed. It just is a little more intense. I know Allie's going to talk about the different kinds of therapy, and Katie is going to talk about, I think, radical acceptance and the positivity of the stress of a diagnosis and how to do good things in life. So I'm going to not cover that. All of us know that with each new scan or each new doctor visit, it can throw a monkey wrench or a monkey into the wrench or a wrench into the monkey. What is that saying? And there can be scanxiety and there can be periods of denial, thank goodness, that happen because it's hard to maintain the intensity of, I have a deadly cancer. I don't know when I'm going to die. I don't know when I'm going to start feeling sick. It's growing all over my body. I can feel I'm in the official whack-a-mole stage, but I don't look sick. you know, I'm still my vibrant Eve personality. It's a lot to manage your own sense of self, other people's sense of you and comments about it, yay or nay, and other people's fears and projections of you. It's a psychological game, absolutely. And I'm so glad that this amazing event today is happening, because we do know from the research that when we focus on the good and we focus on gratitude, we experience more good. And there's lots of spiritual texts that explain why that is, but when they proved it by science, it led a certain credibility to it. Humans like are very connected to being human on this planet. But it is true that if we can be positive, that's better. Why is it better? Because it feels better. It's true, if we can't have gratitude, it's better because it feels better. It feels better than being riddled with anxiety or riddled with dread. There are times that we can't make that choice because it's too much, or too scary, and that's okay. Making it a healing journey means I know these times are going to come where I am frozen in fear, or I am anxious about scans. And I also know the time will come where I have the information from the scan, and then I make a plan with my doc, and I read a book and I make sense of it, or I meet with my support group online, and that this flowing, this surfing, this journey allows us to be in the moment. So if we take the narrative that we build about why did I get this cancer? What is the meaning of it in my life? Why now? And then we take that framework and bring our present attention to that framework. Getting cancer, and getting this particular deadly cancer, sit down and buckle up because I'm going to say something crazy. It is a gift. It is an absolute gift. My life has been so rich and so full of so much love and so many things to be grateful for since metastasizing. And yes, there are the details of getting your ducks in a row and making sure all your legal papers are set, and all the, I have a child, so making sure, the plan for her is settled, and making sure I'm not leaving a bunch of messes in my house, making sure all my taxes are done so I'm not leaving a mess for anybody. Once that stuff is sort of done and you can sit in your own heart and your own belly and your own body with your own spirit and make sense of the story, that is the moment where you become not a victim to this cancer, but you become, I became like fully, without a doubt, Eve Naomi Bogdanov. Because there's nothing, I'm not going to waste a single minute on anything that doesn't absolutely lift me all the way up. And yes, it's given me an opportunity to do healing work that I resisted because it was too hard. And it's not like you heal and you're done. It's a lifelong process. We all have stuff to heal from. We're learning more and more about all kinds of traumas. The general Gestalt people are learning so much about trauma because of all the good thinkers out there about what trauma is. Trauma is anything that's too much, too soon, or too fast, what trauma is and how it affects the body.
And this has been wonderful, by the way. And we do have one question in the chat. This is from someone who's asking, can you feel all the joys and pains on antidepressants?
I know that there are some thoughts out there that antidepressants sort of mute the affect, or you sort of have like a ceiling. And I think it's different for every person. And I also think that for a lot of people, antidepressants save their life. A colleague of mine said long ago that, medication is to help you with your symptoms, but therapy is there to help you with your issues. if you're having trouble feeling all the highs and lows on the medication that you're on, sometimes the solution is to try a different medication or go off your medication. But more times, the solution is to find a different therapist, to find a better match, to find a different kind of therapy that speaks more to your story and your personality. I know Allie's going to talk about the different kind of therapies that are out there. I'm not going to be somebody who's going to say, absolutely, this is the answer 100% for everybody, because it's so individualized. But I can say I've been on antidepressants much of my life for reasons that I came by quite honestly. And it has not stopped me from feeling everything. So I will just say that. Yeah. But you could talk to your provider more about, if you feel blunted and you're not, if you feel like you can't feel your feelings fully, there can be solutions for that.
Well, and like you said, it's an open dialogue. Anytime that I have been on an antidepressant or that I have family members, who have been on one, it's very much an open dialogue between you and a psychologist or a psychiatrist who's prescribing medication, or you and your therapist as you're reporting symptoms, things like that. So like, I mean, obviously not a therapist, just speaking from personal experience, but it is very much an open dialogue. And the more that you can communicate about that, and if you find that you cannot communicate about that, it sounds like what Eve is saying is you probably need to find a different person to work with so that you can communicate more effectively.
It's all about the match. I can be a really excellent therapist for some people, but for other people, they don't like the maybe casual way I can speak or the colloquial way I can speak sometimes. And that means I'm not the best therapist for them, right? So it's okay. It's all about match.
Yeah, no, such a good point. Well, I loved what you said, and I feel like we've kind of covered a lot of different things as you've spoken, but I loved what you said at the beginning. You said that this diagnosis journey becomes something of like riding the waves of the hope and the fear. And I think we're going to see in some of the later presentations, you're going to see how those waves kind of are mirrored in so many different areas. We experience the waves, the ups and downs, right? The ups and downs of the hope and the belief in the future, but also the really low lows or the really fast fall to the low. I think that it's just such a good visual to imagine that. I also just know that for many of us in the online community, at least, we know someone who loved to surf who we lost last year. So that just made me think of Clay. And I think that he would have also loved the way that you phrased that.
Well, I got it from him because I had to embody he was like in my head, he was like this mellow surfer dude.
Yes.
And I was like, the only way to handle this is to be like, okay, now we're on a swell, now we're on a low.
Yeah.
Now
Like I'm just gonna follow. Well, this has been wonderful. Eve, did you have anything as you're looking through your notes that you want to finish and to end with?
That's a good question. It's always hard for me to pick and choose because I have so many things I want to say, but I think mostly I just want to say that cancer is a rich opportunity to get to know yourself in ways that maybe you had not ever taken the time to do. For some people, it's really a bold thing to try to find meaning of their cancer. And for me, it's natural. That's how I've lived my whole life. But it's not natural for everybody. It's scary for most people. It's wicked, it's scary. And don't get me wrong, I've had many moments of feeling very, very scared. But making meaning of your cancer journey lets you be in the driver's seat. It lets you decide how you're going to understand and live your life. That kind of agency and empowerment is necessary when you're faced with something that can be so overwhelming.
That's such a powerful way to put it. And I love what you said about how cancer is a rich opportunity to get to know yourself. And I think that's the gift, right? It's not the having the cancer. It's not the losing your vision. It's not having to deal with all the treatments and the doctor's appointments. It's not all of those things. That's not the gift. The gift is the presence. The gift is the desire to make the meaning of your life, the desire to be here, and the cherishing of the life that you currently have. So I love everything that you've said. Thank you so much for being here, Eve. And I would say let's give you a round of applause, but we're gonna have to do a silent claps for all of the things that you just shared and the insights. And we would love to have you come back. Maybe we can get you back on the podcast for Mental Health Awareness Month coming up. Linda says, thank you, Eve. But yes, we We are going to be covering in the next session just different therapy modalities, as well as radical acceptance with Ali, who is also a patient and a psychologist. And so we're very excited for this next session. And I love how you just, I mean, you just like segued into it. You're just like, there's so many different opportunities for therapy, and everything is going to be different and unique for each person. And it's just the perfect shift into our next session. I didn't even do that. Eve just did that. That was great. Another book that I really liked that you mentioned when you first got your metastatic diagnosis, that it kind of became this journey of looking for evidence, right? That you go looking for, or you have the opportunity to go looking for evidence of why this is really bad, or how you can make meaning of it, how you can survive, how you can get through this, how you can weather it. And one of my favorite books for that is Radical Remission by Kelly A. Turner.
Oh,
Radical
yes,
Remission
yes.
is also such a good one. Oh, and Radical Hope, another one.
Radical
I haven't
Hope.
read that one.
Oh, Radical Hope's great. And what's so funny about Radical Hope is that, like, I didn't get that book until like 4 or 5 months into my metastatic diagnosis. And I was like, I've already done like 9 out of the 11 that are listed here. I was like, how did I know how to do that?
Yes. No, isn't that so funny though?
Yeah, I
But
think she
yes,
gets
both
it
of those
right.
books.
Yeah.
Kelly Turner, she was, I want to say, wasn't she an oncology nurse? And she just started really paying attention in her office to all the patients who were told they had a terminal diagnosis. They were basically sent home, get on hospice, treatment options are gone. They had a
Yeah.
very slim chance at survival. And she started searching out those stories of people who defied the odds, like literally defied all reason, all logic, all science, and they defied the odds. And it just is this nonstop. I mean, I imagine Radical Hope is the same. It's just this nonstop report of all of these opportunities that people had to ultimately choose between, are they going to stop trying? Are they going to stop living? Or are they just going to choose to live fully till the end? And somehow, miraculously, crazily, inexplicably, but also she really backs how she thinks it's possible these patients survived. And so she just shares her study of that. And it's such a powerful book. Whether or not you choose to do all of these 9 practices that she encourages in the book, it's such a powerful book.
Yeah. Well, Radical Hope, she's identified the 10th thing, which is exercise.
Oh. Exercise,
and I'm like, exercise,
like physical exercise,
like move your body, like get
Yeah,
your heart
yeah.
rate up, like move your blood around. Yeah.
Walking, strength training.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exercise. It's kind of like therapy. It's different for everybody.
Yeah. Hiking mountains, doing housework vigorously to Lizzo, that also works.
Yes, that's true. Music, all the music, dance away.
One thing I do want to say actually is that, especially for those of us raised, socialized female, it's very easy to, part of the female experience or female feminine toxic femininity is that, like, we're somehow responsible for everything. And I call it like female Tourette's, like, I'm sorry. Anyway, I digress. But what I'm saying is that if you're raised female, or maybe if you're not, and you're inclined to think, oh, I have to do all of this healing right, or I'm gonna die. There's no right way to do healing. And you can do all the things that you're supposed to do by eating this food and doing that medicine. And you can do all the stuff and you can still die. And it doesn't mean it's your fault. It doesn't mean you caused it. It doesn't mean you manifested it. Right. And really, whatever you can't figure out on a human level, you'll figure it out on a soul level. So don't judge yourself at all for doing it right or not doing it right.
That is such a good point. This is just a comment and also a question. It just says, Eve, so many incredible insights. I have a deep gratitude for what you're sharing. As a social worker, have you had times when it's difficult to utilize the skills that you share with others, like to utilize them for yourself, I think is what she's saying.
Yes, 100%. I mean, the challenge of having what I call the red cape syndrome, which is, I'm compelled to be in service to others and to help other people. And sometimes we're compelled because of our own stories and our own traumas and our own this and that. And we were caretakers in our family of origin. And so we're more inclined to have difficulty to give to ourselves, and we're more comfortable giving to other people. And that's for me, the gift of my cancer diagnosis was, it was like 100% permission. Eve, time to heal yourself, honey. And it's not like I hadn't done tons of therapeutic and healing work before I metastasized. But this was the kind of permission that I had not yet been able to give myself, like unilateral, without question, permission to focus on myself, my health, my kid, and my writing. And really, when it comes down to it, those are the three most important things to me. So
That's so powerful.
yeah.
Well, Eve, thank you so much.
Wonderful. Bye. Thank you.